Hey guys, Afr0Blu again. Today I'm just going to jump straight into doing a game that I really want to do. I'm going to do Sonic Generations. Yes, I know, I haven't done Sonic 3 and Knuckles yet. I'm painfully aware of that fact. But you know what? Screw it. We'll get round to it. So, right here and now, let's jump into Sonic's 20th anniversary game. It's hard to believe that the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise has been running for 20 years. Partly because of the quality of a certain era of the games, and partly because it reminds me I've gotten much older myself. Sega promised us a celebration of the Hedgehog's entire history with Sonic Generations, and I, for one, prepared myself for the biggest nostalgia trip I would ever embark upon. Did the game succeed? Let's continue. In order to honour the drastic changes made to the Sonic formula over the years, two Sonics are playable. Classic Sonic and Modern Sonic, each bringing their unique playstyles to the table. Act 1 of every level sees you playing as Classic Sonic, who should need no introduction and tries to emulate the feel of the Mega Drive era titles, while Act 2 sees you playing as Modern Sonic in the style of Sonic Unleashed and Sonic Colors. Classic Sonic should immediately feel familiar to any long-standing fan of the series. No homing attack, no boost, just the ability to jump and spin dash. The speed, physics, and control of Sonic do feel different to the Mega Drive days, though. To begin with, Classic Sonic is faster than he's ever been. He's not so fast that you can't react to your surroundings, but the increase certainly left an impression on me. It is the kind of speed that feels a little more exhilarating. You're in control, but damn is it powerful. Jumps appear to be smoother and more fluid than before. You are still able to make anything from a small hop to a great bound, yet the inputs for this have an increased sensitivity and response time, allowing Sonic lightning reflexes that, trust me, you're going to need. A spin dash can be performed with one button now, as opposed to holding down and then pressing, holding, tapping, jump. It makes sense when you consider that his movement as a whole has been refitted for a quick-fire experience. Moving on to Modern Sonic, he still evokes a fantastic sense of velocity, especially when boosting, but it is crystal clear that Sega have listened to fan response and made him adhere to his limitations in Sonic Colors. In Sonic Unleashed, Sonic had been so fast that I daren't upgrade his speed statistic. I was already struggling to anticipate and react to upcoming obstacles and enemies, whereas in Sonic Colors, the speed had been toned down to a more manageable pace, alleviating those alarm bells and putting me back in the driver's seat, thus permitting me to return to enjoying the experience. Modern Sonic is now more responsive and user-friendly than ever before, and at the same time he has become lenient. I swear the homing attack allows me to lock onto enemies and objects from greater distances than ever before, and my boost gauge was always full. There is less to say about Modern Sonic for the fact that he is pretty much the same Sonic we've been playing as for the past two games now. Classic Sonic, on the other hand, has been gone for a while, and there are striking changes to the way he handles. Flicking back and forth between these two control styles is jarring at first. It was only after a couple of levels that I adapted, and the Sonics were freely interchangeable. As levels are presented in sets of 3 at a time, some gamers may wish to play all 3 Act 1s in a row, and then all 3 Act 2s to avoid having to swap playstyles constantly. I mentioned that the levels are given to you in groups of 3, with each set representing an era of Sonic. The game opens with Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Sky Sanctuary, so the Mega Drive era, before moving on to Speed Highway, City Escape, and Seaside Hill, Dreamcast era, with a touch of Sonic Heroes, and finally it ends with Crisis City, Rooftop Run, and Planet Wisp. All of these levels have been lovingly recreated, with vivid colours, multiple routes, distinctive enemies, and a natural flow to them. The designs of the levels manage to stay true to their origins, yet at the same time add new elements that seamlessly blend into the established aesthetic.
Strangely enough, despite the focus and mood of the series shifting back and forth through the years, there is a notable consistency spanning the course of the adventure. No one particular zone feels out of place or as though it doesn't belong. Everything post-Mega Drive era works surprisingly well for classic Sonic. Speed Highway in particular reminds me of Stardust Speedway from Sonic CD, as well as Starlight Zone from Sonic 1. Seaside Hill especially fits classic Sonic like a glove, and manages to pull off a lot of well-constructed underwater segments. The layouts of the stages prevent cheap deaths, and it's always clear as to where to go. Playing Green Hill as modern Sonic for the first time will alleviate any fears that his gameplay style would ruin the Mega Drive stages. Sky Sanctuary also stands out as an amazing stage and exceeds expectations. Now, the bugs and design flaws that resulted in many a cheap death and frustrated gamer, and also plagued titles such as Sonic 06 and Sonic Unleashed, do occasionally rear their ugly heads, but for once they are so few and far between that you can't help but feel that Sega finally have their act together and are actively recognizing and trying to prevent these issues. There are also a total of 4 boss battles and 3 rival battles that are compulsory for beating the game. The rival battles are basically bosses that only stop being optional right before the end boss. All of the fights have multiple stages to them, and the bosses do change their tactics around to keep you on your toes. The distinctive, recognizable patterns are present, and they are genuinely fun to fight, all the more true for the rival battles. Without giving anything away, the final boss is a letdown. It can be confusing at first, and to add to that, the controls for that fight, and that fight alone, feel sluggish and unresponsive. So, that gives us 9 stages with 2 acts apiece, 4 main bosses, and 3 rival battles. Sounds like a very short game, and admittedly you can storm through that in an afternoon. What is there to stop this being an overnight rental? Well, first of all, there are 90 challenges, 10 per stage, containing modified versions of levels, tasking you with beating a doppelganger to the finish line, reaching the end of a level with a set number of rings, or a wide variety of other objectives. Completing these challenges will reward you with concept artwork, various pieces of music from previous Sonic games, and sometimes skills, something we'll come back to later. You can also earn artwork, music, and skills by collecting the Red Star Rings. These collectibles have made a return after appearing in Sonic Colors, and there are 5 per act. To get all of them, you will have to display some serious ability in controlling Sonic, and search every corner of every stage, potentially taking new routes as you go. These rewards add a surprisingly daunting task, and when you factor in that every boss and rival battle also has a hard mode, that you can replay any boss, challenge, or level to try and get an S rank, or pit yourself against the world in the online rankings, you start to see where there's suddenly a lot of game. And trust me, if it was just padding, I would have told you by now. So, what can you do with these unlockables? The music you earn can be played in any level, and I highly suggest bursting through modern Sonic's Green Hill to the tune of Sonic Boom for the ultimate feel-good factor. A lot of the artwork is concept art even hardened Sonic veterans will not have seen before, and the skills allow you interesting new abilities, from an increase in speed, to bubble shields, and even Supersonic. Yes, Supersonic is playable in regular levels again, but prepare to be disappointed. When I think of Supersonic, I think of the demon that was twice as fast, could jump twice as high, and was invincible to top it all off. The Supersonic here appears to only be invincible. It's certainly not the Supersonic I recall, and I felt, frankly, let down. The music overall is superb. Great renditions and remixes of every Sonic tune you've ever loved, perfectly fitting the wonderfully rendered world and characters. Again, being able to select the music for a stage is also a huge bonus. The plot, to be honest, there's not a lot to say for the plot. Classic Sonic is a mute, thankfully, and the whole thing doesn't seem to take itself too seriously. It's fun, it serves its purpose, and it's ultimately inconsequential. Perfectly harmless and completely unintrusive. The game's not perfect. Crisis City was not a good idea in Sonic 06. Hell, Sonic 06 was not a good idea in general, but it doesn't do too badly here. The game's also very easy, but I've not been this happy with, or this hooked on, a Sonic title in years. Perhaps I have the old nostalgia blinkers on, but I can't stop playing this game. Not until I've completed every challenge, found every red star ring, and yes, I appreciate the irony of looking for red rings in an Xbox game, and then gotten respectable entries on all of the leaderboards. If you've ever loved Sonic, and that is probably going to be every single one of you, play this game at least once. You owe it to yourself, and you owe it to the memories. And, as always, thank you very much for watching. This has been Afr0Blu3, and I'll catch you next time.